Hey YouTube, a question you may not even know you need answered is why was the number one answer to a Zoom role completely irrelevant in a water dominated meta right now? And that is the case behind Shiftry. So Shiftry was an early Pokemon in GBL, and it was the number one answer to a Zoom role. And in fact, it was a very, very dominant meta Pokemon in GBL, and it has since completely disappear. The only time you'll see it used is in very, very limited metas or sort of like spice picks. And why is that? And like a lot of things, it kind of comes down to a few things. One is the XLs and two is the meta. So let's look at Shiftry because it's a very, very interesting case. It fits the role of Glass Cannon. 134 attack, 87 defense, 142 stamina, 1671 overall. So I am still, to this day, a bit confused on what makes a Pokemon glassy when it comes to defense and stamina. It's very, very obvious that when you have the high, like stat product is easy, like attack is easy. Your lower attack Pokemon are 100 and below. So think your bulky Pokemon like Midi is 106, Azumarill is 93.7. What else is pretty low? Lickitung is probably around 100. So 98.3. Those are your low ones. Your mid-range ones are the one that I just covered yesterday, like Swampert. Swampert is 122. I just put a team with A9tails. It's around the same thing, 116. So 115, right? So your mid-range there. And then you got your attack-heavy Pokemon. And Shiftry is exactly that. Shiftry is a 134, so attack heavy Pokemon. When it comes to defense and stamina, like I've played with Shiftry, I know Shiftry can't take pretty much any move. It is very, very, very glassy. You need a bunch of shields for it. 142 stamina is actually quite a decent amount of stamina. Like it's way more than your Swampert and stuff like that. But just that defense is so low. And it seems like in this Pokemon that defense takes a big chunk of its glassiness. So with that, you can just consider it a glass cannon. So the 1671 overall, it's a glass cannon. So you need to use it appropriately. So if you're going to be a glass cannon, you need two things to go your way: your typing and your moveset. Because right now this just shows that like unless you have shield advantage or energy advantage, you're in trouble. And Shiftry had good moves. So it had, when you started, it just had Snarl. It got Bullet Seed, but both are like clones of each other. So same 3-turn moves, same energy per turn at 4.33, and same damage per turn at 2. It had 2 very quick, very good charge moves. And that is what you need with a glass cannon. You have Leaf Blade, which is probably one of the best grass moves in the game in terms of like energy and damage. 35 energy, 84 damage, 2.4 damage per energy. So when you're doing 2.4 damage per energy as a 35 energy move, stab grass, great. You had a similar damage, exact same damage, higher energy, 1.87 damage per energy, 45 energy, as a basically a coverage move. You're half dark, half grass. If grass is resisted, foul play was a decent move to throw. You could also like, if there's shadows now, so you could do return, you could do leaf tornado. If you want a chance at lowering your opponent's attack times 2, or hurricane as like a sneaky, this will really catch them off guard. I think just running, if you're going to run this, leaf blade foul play is probably the right play to do. So you have a very, very, very fast charging fast move with low energy, hard hitting charge moves. So check that box off immediately. The typing early was good. Because you got to remember, back in the day, there were not a ton of everything on the list here, right? There was basically no bug back in the day. The only real fairy was a Azumarill, which was more, it had play rough, but it was a bubble user. There weren't a ton of fighters, right? There was only like Machamp back in the day. There was like no fire. Altaria was your main Skarmy and Altaria. but Altaria was a Dragon Breath. There wasn't a lot of ice and there wasn't a lot of poison back like when it first started. So with all those weaknesses back in the day, it was okay because you had Swamperts, Swampert, Groundwater, you resist that. Azumarill, you resist the bubble. You resist grass, so like the Venusaurs and stuff. You resist Ghost, like Sableye the Ghost. And then you resist Dark like Umbreon. So if you look at the early average and stat record, Shiftry was so strong, right? 6-5 and 2, 6-6 and 1, depending on whether you use Bullet Seed or Snarl. And that average is very, very high. And that's because you killed a lot of the meta, right? You destroyed Swampert, you destroyed Azumarill, you destroyed Cresselia. Even in like Altarias, because you're so spammy with the foul plays, you did well there. Hypno being the Psychic, you beat that. Umbreon, if you had the Bullet Seed, you can just go straight Leaf Blade and win there. So it's great. Yes, obviously you're going to get killed by Machamps, like a counter user, because you're so glassy. And Venusaur can land a poison Sludge Bomb, which is super effective, right? But otherwise, like, you were so good. So what happened? What moved you from a 6-5 and 2 above 500 average, way above 500 average, to what you are now, a 15 and 26 with a 468 and into the top, like 160 ranked. And again, not surprising, but it's the two things that you're now seeing with a lot of these Pokemon that were relevant back in the day that are not relevant anymore. You're seeing the stat products and all this typing moves that can't compete with a lot of the XL Pokemon and their stat products, combined with their levels, and typings. There has been a significant increase in fighting Pokemon. There's been an increase in flying Pokemon. So right off the bat, you're seeing a lot more fighters and flying. Dugongs out there, you can argue ice. There's a little more ice. Poison is a bit like Poison, Fairy, Bug, and Fire. They're around, but they're not. There are more options now. There are more options now than there were back in the day, and more options limit your ability moving forward. That was the first thing. And then the second thing is you're going to see is just your losses to these Pokemon that you're going to lose to, and the losses against sort of the mid-range Pokemon here in this 300 to 400 range don't outweigh what are some insane wins, right? Look at the state of the meta currently. The current state of the meta, and I go over this in every single video, it seems like now, is water, right? There's like 10 to 15 water in the top 20. There's your list: Feraligatr, Quagsire, Swampert, Lantern, Azumarill, yada, water, like 20 in the top 40. Look at Shiftry's wins. And these are not just like little wins. These are dominant wins. A 933 against a Whiscash. To put that in perspective, if you throw just right away and don't build up energy, you would still have 123 of your 142 health. You're telling me in a meta dominated by Whiscash and where's Lantern? 665. Let's see how much you're left with here. You're telling me in a meta dominated by Whiscash and Lantern, where you would end up with 47 health here in the Lantern matchup, and what I say, 123 here in that meta, you can't make this Pokemon work in a water-dominated meta where you have that many big wins against water, right? Whiscash, Swampert, Feraligatr, Azumarill, Cresselia, Trevenant. These are 800 and above wins, which basically means you are going to be well over like 75% of your health left. How could you not have a Pokemon? How can you not use a Pokemon that beats so many meta Pokemon with so much health left on you and not make it relevant? And there's two issues. So the first one, I think there's the obvious issue is as many huge wins as you have just as many losses, right? Any charm user and pretty much any counter user, 113 and below, which is basically like speaking about you have 123 health left. These Pokemon, which are bulkier than you and going to have way more health left, maybe not, but like 106 left on an Annihilate. And leaving the Annihilate with 106 health is very, very scary. So that's your first thing. Use just as many hard wins as you have as many hard losses now. But it comes down to a lot of these. Your mid game is terrible. And when I say mid game, it's not the ones you're going to kill. It's not the ones you're going to get beat by hard. It's everything else. And unfortunately, your everything else is hurting you. So yes, you do have some nice ones against Lickitung and Sableye, but again, you resist the claw and you resist the lick. So that is your advantage you to begin with. It's all these mid games here where either you're hitting super effective and they're hitting super effective, like Poliwrath, you'll hit super effective with your Leaf Blade, but they'll hit super effective with Counter and Icy Wind. To, I guess there's, like, I guess Sandslash, you just get out. Nice. The Ice Punch will take you out. And that's the thing, like one, because you're so glassy, one is going to take you out. So Shadow Claw on Sandslash will be resisted, but the Ice Punch is going to one-shot you. So when you get it, when you're just that glassy, even though the claws are resisted, this Ice Punch does 78%, and the claws resisted or not will add up enough to take you out. So you will get a move off. Everything's, well, no, you need to land a foul play. But even a foul play, let me see in the zero shield if you just go straight foul play. Even landing one foul play, they will get to 2 Ice Punches and take you out before you get to that. So you lose even in the 0-1 shield. So there's a lot of Pokemon in this meta. It's interesting because there's not even, I'm looking at this list, there's not even a lot of like evenish matchups. Like I'm trying to like pull out like Umbreon, I guess, is one. I'd say you would have an advantage against Umbreon throwing stab Leaf Blades as opposed to non-stab Last Resorts, but you lose that matchup. The Dragon Breath damage is just going to outpower you here. So these are the mid games I was talking about. But there seems to be a lot of just like, because of all your weaknesses, a lot of stuff that hits super effective against you. Counter on Poliwrath. Steel Wing, did I say Steel? Is Steel one of them on... No, Steel is not one of them. Not one of the 7. But like, there's a lot of Pokemon with flying type fast moves. There's a lot of Pokemon with fighting type fast moves. There's a decent amount of Pokemon with ice type fast moves. There's the charm users. There's a couple poison users. Like, there's enough fast move damage pressure there that really adds up on a glassy Pokemon. So like, again, look at this list. Like, huge uptick in flyers. Mantine, Gligar, Talonflame with Incinerate, Steel Wing, Skarmory. Like, there's a lot that is adding up on you really, really quick there. Plus all like the hard losses. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't use this Pokemon, but it's very, 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 very difficult to use this Pokemon because yes, you have super, super, super great answer to these Pokemon, but you then need to try to cover all these weaknesses with 2 Pokemon. So the question is, how do you cover Charmers, Fighters, Flyers, Ice, and Fire? How do you cover 5 typings with 2 Pokemon? And that's the thing. A lot of the time you can't. So when it comes to recommended teammates, you're obviously seeing a couple things here. You're seeing, the first thing you're seeing is water Pokemon, because this will take away your fire weakness. It will take away your ice weakness. It'll take away your fighting weakness. So there's a few right off the bat you could beat there. Carbink and Zoomerl with ice and rock should be a lot of the flying Pokemon. So that is why they are recommended. Plus, they allow you to have the bulk. So when you put them together, let's just put a Zoomerl. It will leave double poison. But for the most part, like, cover your fighters with a Zoomerl. Cover your flyers with a Zoomerl. Down the board, cover a lot of the same things. You're going to be double weak to poison. Grass, some grass will hurt you, but you can hit neutral with the foul plays and super effective with the ice beam. So it's not bad from that perspective. But again, even putting a Pokemon like that together still gives you not a lot of safety and not a lot of coverage. And you need to cover an insane amount of Pokemon still. So you either do like Registeel, makes you double weak to fighting. Lantern, double weak to grass. Swampert, double weak to grass. Stunfisk, double weak to fighting. Annihilate, double weak to fairy. Stunfisk, double weak to fighting. Clodsire as a poison ground. Does Clodsire as a poison ground add a double weakness here? Water, ground, ice. Double weak to ice with Clodsire. Right? So there really is no two Pokemon you can put together with this Pokemon that will provide you the coverage that you need in this meta. And that really is the limitation of Shiftry. You have a Pokemon that can really, really dominate, but can also get dominated. And you cannot cover its glassiness and all of these weaknesses enough with two Pokemon to really make it valuable on a team. And that's unfortunately what Shifty is. So Shiftry went from a super, super dominant everywhere Pokemon to having way, way more bulkier Pokemon in this meta. A lot more Pokemon that can hit super effective against it. And the meta has shifted. And again, this is a water meta. This is a water meta where this Pokemon will dominate some of the top tier water Pokemon in this meta. And it is borderline unusable because the other half of the meta just completely dominates it and you cannot cover all your weaknesses on it. So again, I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying that if you are going to use it, just be aware that there are going to be situations where you will just get deleted, right? Like look at these Charmers, 51, 59, Medi at 102, Annihilate at 113. Like there are times that you'll just get deleted and your opponent will come out with energy and a bunch of health. And then trying to cover all these weaknesses in one is very, very, very difficult. And that is why Shiftry has basically disappeared. So that is basically it. That is Shiftry. So it's been a lot of older Pokemon so far. And again, I did this to kind of be like, the history of Skarmory, Azumarill, and then it's kind of been into like Swampert and Shiftry and Hypno. So all the old Pokemon. I will eventually get to the newer ones. There's not like talk about the history of Annihilate. Well, they introduced it in the game like last season, so can't really talk about the history of that, right? So that's why I'm starting with a lot of the older Pokemon. So drop in the comments below what other Pokemon you want me to cover, and I will cover that because I enjoy doing these, and it's a good way to like break up just putting out team after team after team, and giving you guys something at least new. I was gonna say new and exciting, but at least new, maybe interesting to look forward to. Anyway, so that is it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.